Our friend Kyle Kolinsky over at Secular Talk really dug into what is underlying a lot of these religious exemption arguments from the religious right around gay marriage. And what is actually underlying a lot of those claims to religious freedom is the idea that gay people are not really equal to everybody else. Churches can have exemptions when it comes to dealing with gay people, but not necessarily with people of different races, for example. And Kyle outlines this really well. Let's take a look.
Kansas Republican Governor Sam Brownback is without question one of the worst 5 governors in America. He's destroyed his state economically with tax cuts for the rich and tax hikes on the middle class and the poor. And he decimated the social safety net and blew a giant hole in the budget. So he always talks about how, oh, I'm a fiscal conservative, I care about deficits. Really? Then why did you increase the deficit tremendously? This is the same thing, by the way, that Ronald Reagan did. You know, oh, I'm a fiscal conservative. Meanwhile, the deficit exploded under him. So by every measurable standard, Sam Brownback is a failure. But now we learn he also did this. Quote, Brownback on Tuesday issued an executive order protecting the religious freedom of clergy and organizations that oppose same-sex marriage as his state moved to implement the law and recognize same-sex healthcare benefits. The order prohibits Kansas from discriminating against an individual clergy, religious leader, or religious organization that chooses not to participate in a gay marriage based on their beliefs. Okay, so this is what many people think is the middle ground in the gay marriage debate. Now, understand, the decision from the Supreme Court did not say that churches need to marry gay people now. All they're saying is the federal government and each state government needs to recognize gay marriages. So gay marriage is illegal, but that does not mean that any gay couple can go to any church and say, I want to get married and you have to marry us. That's not what it means. So again, what Sam Brownback is doing here is what he thinks is some sort of a middle ground. He's like, okay, fine, I accept the Supreme Court's decision as to what's constitutional. The state will accept gay marriages, but I'm still going to pass a law now saying that churches, you're protected if you want to discriminate. So here's the question on the table. Is that indeed a middle ground where you're saying, yeah, religious organizations don't have to do something like that? Now, I say no. And believe it or not, there's plenty of people on the left who would even disagree with me on this. But I've maintained from day one that you cannot and should not be allowed to discriminate in any forum, public or private, if the discrimination is based on something arbitrary. Okay, so we already have, under the Civil Rights Act, you know, you have certain racial protections. So like a business can't fire you simply because of your race. They also can't fire you based on your religion. There are certain things that are called protected classes where we understand they've historically faced more discrimination. So therefore, it's one of these things where it's arbitrary if somebody tries to kick you out of their store because you're black. So we don't allow that. So why would we not do the exact same thing with gay people? I don't understand it. In 29 states, you can still get kicked out of a restaurant because you're gay, or you could be fired because your boss doesn't like the fact that you're gay. Why the fuck would that be allowed? Now, we made a big step forward with the Supreme Court decision, but the fight's not over yet. Those 29 states, those things can still happen. And here we're dealing with a situation where Kansas is protecting churches that say, if you want to be bigoted assholes, go right ahead. Well, think about it. Should a church be able to say to an interracial couple, I'm not going to marry you because you're an interracial couple, and I'm against interracial couples. I'm against interracial marriage. Should they be allowed to do that?
This is just spot on. And I love how Kyle gets into the arbitrary nature of religion. And it's really funny because sometimes these bigoted right-wing arguments are so internally conflicting in the sense that you have some on the right who say, listen, we should not really be changing our definition of marriage. We shouldn't be changing anything we're doing based on people's sexual orientation because being gay is a choice. Identifying as gay is a choice. At the same time, they are using their choice to believe a certain religion's teachings to justify discrimination. So on the one hand, we shouldn't give special privileges to anybody who makes choices about their lifestyle, but at the same time, they are demanding special exemptions to discrimination law based on the completely arbitrary, completely self-professed, completely optional choice of belonging to a particular religion. So Kyle is absolutely spot on here. And what is underlying all of this, let me restate, is that gay people are not really equal. When it comes to race protections, right? As Kyle says, if a church says, hey, our religion says no black people, so we don't allow black people here, we don't marry black people, whatever the case may be, it would be seen completely differently from saying, well, it's just our religion that we don't think gay people should be able to be married. And that is because underlying all of this is the idea that gay people are not really like everybody else.